So, as I'm recording this video, Zenless Zone Zero is officially 1 year old. It has not feel like it's been a year at all, but here we are now, I guess. So, I thought since it's like the official anniversary of the game, I feel like I record this little video here because I got nothing better to do right now. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be just yapping about the game, like yapping about like the style, the combat, like the great things they added, some improvements that can be made, and stuff like that. So basically, it's just gonna be an unscripted video of me talking about the game. And like as I said before, there really isn't much to it. So I guess with that little introduction thing out of the way, let's start talking about it. Alright, so first thing that I would like to ramble on about is the art style and like the character designs. Now, in my opinion, I think ZZZ has the best out of the three Playverse games. In general, like the theme of the game, like Genshin Impact was like a I don't really know how to word it. It was like an element fantasy, I guess. I don't know how else to word it. HSR basically is like a futuristic sci-fi, and that theme's really good too. But there's just something about ZZZs that just makes me like it a lot more. I guess I like the kind of like apocalyptic sort of theme, even though it isn't really like too apocalyptic. In general, I just really like I guess that like New Era 2 is the last bastion of humanity, which from what I personally played, I can't really think of a lot of games that have done that sort of trope or theme, which I don't know. Maybe I'm just not looking hard enough, but ZZZ is one of the only ones out of maybe two that have done it. In general, I can tell a lot of budgets were put into this game style-wise. Especially with the animations and the UIs and enemy designs. This one dumped a lot of resources into art style design, especially with the fast pace of sometimes a glitchy effect that comes across whenever you enter a fight or maybe go into TV mode. I think that is a really cool detail. And adds yeah, this game's under it has an apocalypse right now with Imperials and stuff, but it's still in a way futuristic, even though this is the last part of the world that has life in it. Alright, now I kind of want to talk about character design. Well, I think this is one of the most unique parts about ZZZ, because it's not just people that are playable characters. You play as actual animals, or sirens, which I think is cool. You play as a bear, a wolf, a cybernetic cat. I think that part is awesome, and they do a really good job with the model sport too. And on top of that, pretty much every character in this game feels extra emotional, but not in a bad way. There's a lot of expression within these characters, especially the way they move, in combat and the story and cutscenes and stuff like that. They are really expressive, which some Genshin and Star Rail don't really have necessarily too much of. Sure, they have some every now and then, but obviously not to say that the other two games don't really have expressive voice acting. Those two have really good moments, Farina from Genshin and the Fontaine story, and Findon in the recent HSR story. Their emotions popped off during those scenes with it. And ZZZ does that the most out of any of the other three. So I think for now that's all I can think of in terms of what I want to talk about with design. Let's move on to something I was really looking forward to talking about, and that's the combat. Now I can go on all day about the combat of this game. The best way I think I can describe it is It's like an improved version of Genshin's combat and like kind of a watered down version of WoW. It's like in between the two. And yeah, I think that's the best way I can describe it. In general, I like the parry mechanic. I think that's like a feature that way more games should have. Because like hitting a successful block and hearing that like ding is like really satisfying in this game. You like almost feel the impact of like the block. It's just phenomenal. Now I'm gonna use Genshin as an example for this topic really quick. Is like the attack patterns of the characters. Like in Genshin, there's like the 5 weapons. There's bow, catalyst, sword, claymore, and spear. And like most of the attacks, like relatively like the same. It's just swing, 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 and stuff like that. Or like cast, like depending on what you're using. But in ZZZ, like everything's unique. You don't just like swing. Like sometimes like you jump at enemies, like crash into them. Like not like with the team I'm using right here. Like Vivian's, in my opinion, like a good example of this. Like she uses her umbrella, she like flies up in the air, she dives down at you, she like twirls around, and it only adds like the flashiness of like all these characters have and like how like visually appealing that well most of the characters are. Like going back to like the topic of combat and going on to like the end game, like which I think they did a really good job with the end game. It's like a perfect combination of like very challenging but also easy to clear depending on how like you utilize the teams and stuff like that. Like I've seen people like clear like the end game modes that like can be really challenging with just A rank characters and B rank W rank, which I think it's still pretty insane because like I have no confidence in my ability to do that at all. But some people can do it like with easily because like they understand all the rotations and stuff like that. In general, I just really like how every character is like usable in like almost anything. I've seen people clear the stuff like a DPS Ben, a DPS Sokaku, and just like clean house with them. And I have zero confidence in my ability to do like any of that. And I still find it unbelievable that it's possible to do that. Like in Genshin, like most of the characters, they're not really like too usable in some games, like especially in the new one. And I like how ZZZ, you could just go in with like the characters you got from the very beginning, like with the starter characters. Like you can, if you build them right and know the rotation well, you can use them like fully and clear even the toughest difficulties, which is absolutely insane and something I hope most, if not like some gacha games do in the future, where they don't just leave like old characters in the dust and actually give a way to put use back into. Alright, I think I talked enough about like good parts of the game. Let's talk about a little bit of like problems and I guess a little bit of fears that I have for the future of the game. Now let's get like a big one out of the way with Miyabi. Now it's not to say like Miyabi's a bad character or anything. Like she's the best character in the entire game, there's no question about it, but I fear if they release a character that like outperforms Miyabi, then it'll be pretty bad, because like Miyabi isn't just the top of like the damage like ceiling, she is the damage ceiling. Like nothing can out damage her at all. And again, like you can clear with like any character like with like an insane amount of investment. Like with Miyabi there isn't really too much investment you can go into, and it kind of like feels like if you don't have her on your account, then clearing the game will be significantly harder. And again, you don't necessarily need Miyabi to clear everything. It'll just take a lot less time and, in a way, a little bit less effort to clear because she just does so much in the first place. But yeah, it's so clear, like, in general, even without, like, the best character. Like, it's like an instance in multiple games where, like, for example, in Borderlands, you don't need to have the best equipment to clear, like, endgame bosses. If you're, like, good enough and have the right, like, skill sets, like, you can do it. I think that kind of clears up, like, the combat aspect. Let's move on to the story. Now, there will be a little bit of spoilers ahead where I'm talking about it, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, you've been warned starting from. Alright, let's start discussing the story. So, the story is really good. It's almost completely flawless in how they tell it, but there is one issue I had recently, which I will get to in a little bit. Now, if I were to pick my top 3 favorite story arcs, I guess, number 6 would be Ambi's arc with the Silver Squad division. Number 2 would be the audio of Section 6, Act 5 of Chapter 1, I think it is. And number 1 would be the arc with Hugo, Wycon, Exaltus, and Sonic. Now, the reason I like these 3 in particular is because they added a lot of depth to the story, and they answered a lot of questions that we had about the lore for a long time. Like, ever since 1.0, people have been well, it's kind of known that Ambi and Soldier 11 had a connection in there, down to their trailers, and the 1.6 story answered all of that. And I think it was really cool that they trailed back to all the lore, and they didn't just forget about it, which, again, a good addition. And okay, moving on from that, talk about the obvious Section 6 Act 5. That one was, those acts were insane. I really liked them as part of the main story, especially with the operator Bringer. And again, all of the characters, I'm pretty sure all of the characters had a form of screen time. Literally everybody was there. It was kind of like a no character was left behind in the story. They all had at least some form of screen time, relevance in it. The final act, which I really enjoy, and something that some gacha games should do more by including way more characters in very big moments that have an impact on the world. Okay, let's talk about 1.6 to 1.7, which mainly focus on Hugo and Rykon and stuff like that. Those 2 were easily my favorites for many different reasons. Again, one of them was bringing up all the lore that hasn't been explained since 1.0 and finally explained to us brought to life. Because I've been looking forward to more Rykon lore and stuff for a lot more, and I think that was a big part of it. And in general, the story was the perfect combination of really, really dark and really enjoyable, especially on the part where Hugo was hallucinating and restrained himself in a crate, or I think it was a crate or a storage crate for I think it was a week, if I remember right. And the section there was phenomenal. It was very, very well done, and they couldn't have done any better with that. Alright, let's talk about a gripe I had with the story lately. And that was a part with 2.0's Phantom Heights stuff. Now, there was a part where, the main event for 2.0, where you had to, open up a shop and, sell things and, go on expeditions with Bangu and stuff like that. You had to do that in order to progress into the story further. It kind of forced you to do it, which I really didn't like, and it kind of interrupted the flow I was having with it, getting introduced to a new place and learning about the characters, and it sort of made it come to a pause, which kind of again interrupted the flow. And like a lot of people had like a problem with it. In general, like the start of 2.0 was just a little bit slow with nothing really too much was like happening. They were talking about like big bad corporation, people revolting against the big bad corporation, stuff like that. It did get good though, eventually, but it was just a really long path to actually get to like the really, really good parts, which I hope they don't do again, or at least shorten like the amount of like time to wait for like the peak content in the story to happen, if that makes sense at all. So I think that wraps up everything I want to talk about. I just made this thing for the sake of making it, and I figured it was the right time to do it. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed listening to me yap, and have a better day than